What's up, millennials? Not many YouTubers are covering European stocks, so I might start talking more about those. Today we're going to take a look at a company that is growing at more than 100% year over year. It has more than 7 million active customers. It still has growth ahead in the future. It has a price to sales ratio of less than 3, and it has positive free cash flow. And that company is HelloFresh. So in this video we're going to take a look at the valuation of this company, the pros, the cons, and also some technical analysis. Because today I received a few questions about this company, about HelloFresh in our Discord, and that is also something you can join for free if you go to nesami.com/discord. Then you can leave your name, leave your email address, and you're going to get access to it. HelloFresh is a company that is founded in 2011 in Germany, but as we're going to see later on in this video, the majority of their revenue comes from the United States. They IPO'd in 2017 on the German stock exchange, and then back then they had a valuation of about 2 billion euros. So what HelloFresh does is they deliver boxes full of groceries that you can select. You can select your own meal if you want meat, if you want vegetarian food, if you want pescatarian food, so only fish, for example. Then you can go to their website. You can basically put together a box of groceries that you would like to have delivered to your home, and then you're good to go. So as you can see, the price per serving in this case, if you are with 2 people and you have 3 recipes per week via HelloFresh, then you would pay about $9 per serving. So let's first talk about the pros of this company, because I, for example, am living in a building with a lot of millennials, a lot of hardworking millennials, and these millennials, when they come home from work or when they stop working, because most of them are working from home, then they don't really have a lot of energy to go to the supermarket to do their groceries, then come home, then start cooking. And these people usually don't really want to order pizza every single day either, as you can imagine. So what they do is they get these boxes from HelloFresh or other companies, Marty Spoon or whatever, and these boxes contain fresh, healthy food for them. And this actually saves them time because they don't need to go to the supermarket, they don't have to think about new recipes, they don't have to think about all the ingredients they actually need for those recipes. And the nice additional benefit with companies like HelloFresh is that you get new recipes too. And as we've seen earlier on in this video, you can also select your own plan. You can choose your preferences. So if you, for example, like meat and veggies, or if you just want veggies, or if you're a pescatarian, you can just select your plan based on those preferences. With regards to competition, we can see that HelloFresh has the most popular meal kit in the world. And personally, I don't live in the United States, I live in the Netherlands, but I do know that Blue Apron was a relatively big player in this industry. So here you have an article on Seeking Alpha comparing these two companies, HelloFresh with Blue Apron. And we can see that the amount of customers from Blue Apron is declining over time, whereas the amount of customers for HelloFresh is increasing over time. Also, if you look at the Google Trends of the last 5 years in the United States, we can see that for both the words HelloFresh without the space in between and HelloFresh with the space in between, we can see an uptrend over time too. And then when you go to a website like Trustpilot, we can see that HelloFresh gets a pretty good grade, a 4.4 out of 5, and most people think it's excellent or great. But let's now also talk about the cons of this company, about HelloFresh, because if we stay on Trustpilot and if we look at the comment section, we can definitely see some negative comments about this company too. Because this one, for example, talks a little bit about the packaging of HelloFresh. And that is definitely something that I felt quite negative about too, because I also use HelloFresh and some other companies like Marley Spoon, and they definitely are using a lot of packaging. If you think, for example, about the Sustainable Development Goals, about protecting the climate, then that definitely is not a good process. And then let's also talk a little bit about the price of their products, because as we've seen before, the price per serving is about $9 if you are with 2 people and you have 3 recipes per week, which according to the website is the most popular option. So this is not super expensive maybe, but it is more expensive than doing groceries on your own, and probably also more expensive than having groceries delivered to your home, which definitely here in the Netherlands is something that is increasing in volume quite a bit. I'm not sure how that is in the United States, maybe you can let me know. But yeah, I can kind of imagine supermarkets offering something similar to HelloFresh. Maybe they are going to come up with their own meal plans. Maybe they're going to use artificial intelligence to recommend new meals based on the preferences of people. And maybe they're going to have autonomous vehicles that are delivering these groceries to people's homes in the future. Because yes, as a HelloFresh customer, you don't need to go to the supermarket, but there is another person that is needed to bring that supermarket, to bring those groceries to you. Here, for example, we can take a look at the S1 filing of DoorDash. And here, this is of course a different company, but yeah, a little bit similar, of course. And in this S1 filing, we can see that if they are going to fail to use autonomous vehicles and drones in the future, that could negatively impact the business of DoorDash. Now, drones is probably not likely a suitable solution for HelloFresh because of the size and the weight of these boxes, but I do think that autonomous vehicles are definitely a very good option for them. Something else that's important to take into account is the effect of the pandemic, of course, because right now maybe not a lot of people want to go to the supermarket because, well, it might be too crowded, so that's why they order their groceries online, and that's why they also might use services like HelloFresh a little bit more. So the question is, if the pandemic is going to go over, then are people going to go back to the supermarket and stop using HelloFresh? That is a question we don't have the answer to just yet. So the question is also, is there going to be lower organic growth after the pandemic, or do they need to spend more money into marketing, for example? And now let's take a look at some of the metrics and the valuation of this company at this moment in time. We can see, according to their latest Q1 filing, that they have 7.3 million active customers right now, which is a nice increase of 74% year over year. And something interesting to look at is the amount of orders per customer. So keep in mind, this is for 1 quarter, so 3 months in total. And we can see that right now, according to this Q1 filing, the amount of orders per customer is about 4. So the people are ordering about 4 orders, 4 boxes per quarter per 3 months. I think this is a number that could potentially grow a little bit more in the future. Then if you look at the revenue of Q1, we could see that they did about 1.44 billion euros in revenue in just 1 quarter. If you annualize that, and this is, by the way, a year-over-year increase of 106%, but if you annualize this, so 1.44 times 4, because yeah, this is just a quarter, 3 months in time. If you annualize that, and that is about 5.7 billion euros in 1 entire year, and then if you take into account the market cap is about 12.2 billion euros, then the price to sales ratio is only 2.2. So they definitely have an attractive valuation, as we can also see in this image on Seeking Alpha, which is an article from about 1.5 months ago. So the valuation was a little bit different here. We could see that HelloFresh had a price to sales ratio of about 3, and that was definitely on the lower end if you compare it to all the companies that are listed in this image over here. Now do keep in mind that they did acquire another company, Factor 75, so that is also going to be included in that revenue growth. So it's not just organic growth, but also acquisition growth. And as I've said in the beginning, HelloFresh is a German company, but we can see, according to the Q1 filing, that most of the revenue doesn't come from Germany or from Europe, but it actually comes from the United States. So about 802 million euros in revenue comes from the United States, and 640 million euros is international revenue. And the growth is likely going to decelerate over time because it's not very sustainable to get 106% year over year, of course, but management is calling for decelerating revenue growth of about 20 to 25%. Apart from that, we can see that according to the Q1 filings, the company HelloFresh does have a positive free cash flow of $172 million in Q1. And right now they are sitting on about 876 million euros in cash. And before we hop into the charts to do some technical analysis, let's very briefly talk about the ticker symbol, because here in Europe they are trading on the German stock exchange underneath the ticker symbol HFG, but on the OTC markets in the United States they have a slightly different ticker symbol, as you can see on the screen right now. On the weekly chart of HelloFresh, we can see that they have a very beautiful chart since the start of this company, since the start of their IPO back in 2017. They, of course, have a beautiful uprun to the upside. The volume right now is decreasing a little bit over time. It could be consolidating right now within this range, more or less, between like $55 and $57 more or less, or 57 euros more or less, of course. But the indicators, if we then take a look at those, we can see that the RSI is flip-flopping around a little bit, and the MACD is a little bit bearish and going to the downside for now. And if we take a look at these same indicators, the RSI, for example, on the daily chart instead of the weekly chart, we can also see that the RSI is a little bit bearish on the one hand. We can see that the RSI is still trading below this EMA. So this blue line is the RSI, white line is the EMA, and it is still trading below that. The MACD is still trading below the signal line, so that is a little bit bearish in general. But yeah, if we do look at the candlesticks, we see that we are in an uptrend right now. We did make lower highs, or higher lows, of course, and higher highs too. So we are in an uptrend right now, which is a positive sign. So yeah, in general, I don't really have a strong opinion about the chart of HelloFresh right now. Now, if we do see an additional move to the downside to, for example, 61 euros because of the previous support level, or even 55 euros because of that support level, then definitely that would seem an opportunity for me. That, of course, is not financial advice, but the valuation of this company would simply become too attractive for me. And by the way, if you're a beginner in technical analysis and you also want to learn how to read stock charts, then definitely check out nesami.com/TA. So there you go, that was a brief overview of HelloFresh. Now, if you liked this video, please consider sharing this video with your friends who might also be interested in learning more about European stocks. And with that being said, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye bye!